Shalom, my friends. I am Rabbi Simon, and today I am going to do something unusual. I am not going to teach you a strategy. I am not going to give you a protocol. I am not going to reveal a hidden law of success or prosperity. Today, I am going to answer the only question that actually matters. The question that 8 billion people carry inside them, but almost none of them have the courage to face directly. The question that every philosophy, every religion, every spiritual tradition, every self-help movement was invented to either answer or silence. Why are we here? Why do we exist? What is the meaning of this brief, painful, confusing experience we call life? Who benefits from our suffering? And if there is a creator behind all of this, what does he actually want from us? These are not rhetorical questions. These are not philosophical entertainment for a quiet evening. These are the questions that, if left unanswered, will turn your entire life into a slow, quiet tragedy. A life of running without knowing where. A life of accumulating without knowing why. A life of arriving at the end and realizing you never understood the beginning. There is a science that answers these questions. It is not a religion. It is not a philosophy. It is not mysticism, not magic, not superstition. It is the oldest and most precise science of reality ever transmitted from teacher to student. It is called Kabbalah, and it is nothing like what you have been told. If you have ever felt that something is missing, not a thing, not a person, not a possession, but something deeper, something you cannot name, a hollow space behind every achievement and every pleasure that nothing in this world seems to fill, then this teaching was prepared for you. Stay with me, because what I am about to share with you is not information. It is the beginning of a different kind of sight. Let me ask you something, and I want you to answer from the deepest, most honest place within you. Have you ever had everything, a career, a family, health, money, comfort, and still felt empty? Have you ever achieved a goal you worked toward for years, tasted the triumph for a few hours or days, and then felt the familiar hollowness return, as if the achievement was a glass of water poured into a bottomless well? Have you ever looked at your life from the outside and thought, this should be enough, I should be happy, and yet there is something missing, something I cannot identify, something I cannot buy, earn, build, or find in another person? If you have felt this, write in the comments right now, I have felt the emptiness. Write it, not as a performance, not for anyone else. Write it as an act of truth. Because this emptiness is not a flaw in you, it is not depression, it is not ingratitude, it is a signal. It is the most important signal you will ever receive. And most people spend their entire lives trying to silence it instead of listening to what it is trying to tell them. That emptiness has a name, and it has a purpose, and once you understand it, your entire relationship with life will change. Before I explain the emptiness, I need to clear away everything you think you know about Kabbalah, because almost everything the modern world has been told about this wisdom is wrong. Kabbalah is not a religion. It has no connection to any specific faith. It does not ask you to change your religion, your traditions, your culture, or your lifestyle. It predates every organized religion on earth. Kabbalah is not mysticism. It is not magic. It has nothing to do with red strings, holy water, amulets, fortune-telling, or communicating with spirits. These are inventions of people who never studied the authentic sources. They are costumes draped over a body they never saw. Kabbalah is not reserved for a specific group of people. It is not only for Jews. It is not only for men. It is not only for scholars. It belongs to every human being whose heart has begun to ask, why am I here? Let me give you the precise definition. The great Kabbalist Baal HaSulam, Rabbi Yehuda Ashlag, defined Kabbalah as follows. This wisdom is no more and no less than a sequence of roots, which hang down by way of cause and effect in fixed, determined rules, interweaving to a single, exalted goal described as the revelation of the Creator's godliness to his creatures in this world. Read that again slowly. A sequence of roots, cause and effect, fixed, determined rules, a single goal. This is not poetry. This is not metaphor. This is the language of a scientist describing a system with laws as precise and unwavering as the laws of physics, a system that governs reality itself, not the surface of reality that our five senses can perceive, but the totality of reality, including the vast layers that remain invisible to us. And the single goal of this system? The revelation of the Creator to his creatures, the discovery by the created being of the force that created it, sustains it, and guides it through every moment of existence. Kabbalah is the science of reality, the complete reality, not the fragment we see with our eyes, the whole picture. And when I say science, I mean it literally. Kabbalah deals with laws, not beliefs, not opinions, not traditions, laws, cause and effect. If you do this, that happens. If you do not, something else happens. Just as gravity does not care whether you believe in it, the laws of Kabbalah operate whether you are aware of them or not. The question is not whether these laws exist. The question is whether you will learn them or continue to be governed by them blindly. Now we arrive at the heart of the matter, the question behind every question, the foundation upon which the entire structure of Kabbalah is built. Why does anything exist? Why is there a universe? Why is there life? Why are there human beings? Why are there 8 billion souls on this planet, each one born into confusion, each one struggling, suffering, searching, and eventually dying without understanding why any of it happened? Kabbalah gives a precise answer. Baal HaSulam writes, "The purpose of creation is to bestow pleasure upon the created beings." Let that settle into you. The purpose of creation is not punishment. It is not a test you can fail. It is not a cosmic game designed to sort the worthy from the unworthy. The purpose of creation is pleasure, absolute, unlimited, eternal pleasure. The Creator, and I want you to understand what I mean by this word. I do not mean an old man on a cloud. I do not mean a figure from a painting or a stained glass window. I mean the force behind reality, the singular governing intelligence that operates the entire system of existence. Call it God, call it nature, call it the upper force. The name does not matter. What matters is understanding its quality, and its quality, according to every authentic Kabbalistic source, is the desire to give, the desire to bestow goodness, the desire to bring the created being to a state of complete, boundless, infinite fulfillment. This is analogous to a parent. Think about what drives a good parent. What is the deepest, most instinctive desire a parent carries? It is the desire for the child to be well, to be happy, to grow strong, to surpass the parent, to stand on its own feet and experience life in its fullness. A good parent does not create a child in order to control it. A good parent creates a child in order to give it everything. This is the relationship between the Creator and the created being. We were brought into existence for one purpose, to receive the totality of good that the Creator wishes to give. But here is the question that immediately arises, and it is the most important question in all of Kabbalah. If the purpose of creation is to give us pleasure, why does life hurt so much? If the Creator is a force of pure giving, pure benevolence, pure love, why is the world filled with suffering? Why is there war? Why is there loneliness? Why is there disease? Why does every pleasure fade? Why does every achievement eventually feel hollow? Why do we live with this relentless, gnawing sense that something is missing? This is not a contradiction. It is the mechanism. Kabbalah teaches that we, the created beings, are composed of one fundamental substance, one essential material. It is called Ratzon Lakabel, the desire to receive. This is not a metaphor. This is a precise definition of what you are. Every cell in your body, every thought in your mind, every emotion in your heart, every craving, every ambition, every fear, every longing, all of it is the desire to receive expressing itself in different forms. You desire food, you desire comfort, you desire recognition, you desire love, you desire wealth, you desire knowledge, you desire meaning. These are not separate desires. They are the same desire, the desire to receive, operating at different levels. And this desire is not sinful, it is not evil, it is not something to be suppressed, transcended, or overcome. This is where Kabbalah differs fundamentally from almost every other spiritual tradition on earth. Throughout history, nearly every spiritual path has attempted to deal with human suffering by reducing desire. Buddhism teaches detachment. Asceticism teaches deprivation. Many religious traditions teach suppression. The logic is simple. If desire is the source of suffering, then the elimination of desire must be the path to peace. Kabbalah says the opposite. The bigger the desire, the better, because the desire is the vessel. It is the container. It is the capacity to receive. And the purpose of creation is to fill that vessel with infinite pleasure. So why would you want to shrink it? A small desire can receive a small pleasure. A large desire can receive a large pleasure. An infinite desire can receive infinite pleasure. The goal is not to diminish the desire. The goal is to learn how to use it correctly. And this is where humanity went wrong. Not in the size of its desire. In the direction. The problem of direct fulfillment. Here is the mechanism. Observe it carefully, because this single principle explains virtually every form of human suffering. When you desire something and receive it directly, food, money, pleasure, recognition, you experience a momentary satisfaction. The desire and the fulfillment meet, and for a brief instant there is contact. There is pleasure. But then what happens? The pleasure disappears. The desire returns. And now it is bigger. Now it wants more. Now the same quantity that satisfied it yesterday is insufficient today. You need a larger portion, a higher salary, a stronger sensation, a more intense experience. This is not a moral failing. This is the architecture of the desire itself. The desire to receive, when it operates in direct mode, I want, I take, I consume, can never be permanently satisfied. Because the moment the desire is filled, the fulfillment extinguishes the desire, and without desire there is no sensation of pleasure. The light and the vessel cancel each other out. Baal HaSulam explains this with extraordinary precision. When the light, the pleasure, enters the vessel, the desire, it neutralizes the vessel. The desire ceases to be felt. And without feeling the desire, you cannot feel the pleasure. It is like pouring water into a fire. The water extinguishes the fire. The fire evaporates the water. Both disappear. This is why every pleasure in this world fades. This is why the rich man is not happier than the poor man. This is why the person who achieves everything they ever wanted still feels empty. The mechanism of direct fulfillment is self-defeating by design. And this is not a punishment. This is the system working exactly as it was designed to work. It is designed to bring you to the point where you stop and say, wait, something is wrong, not with the world, with the way I am trying to receive. This is the moment everything changes, and this moment has a name. Before I continue, I want you to do something. If you have reached that point, if you are at the place where the old ways of filling yourself have stopped working, where the achievements no longer satisfy, where the pleasures no longer hold, where the question has become so loud that you can no longer ignore it, go to the comments and write, "I am ready to learn why I am here." Write it as a declaration, not to me, not to this channel, to yourself, to the force that placed this question inside you. Because the fact that you feel this question means something has already awakened, and that awakening is the most precious event in your entire existence. In Kabbalah, there is a term for the moment when a person begins to ask the real question. It is called Nakuda Sheblev, the point in the heart. It is the moment when something stirs inside you that is different from every other desire you have ever experienced. It is not a desire for money. It is not a desire for love. It is not a desire for success or recognition or pleasure. It is a desire for meaning, for truth, for the reason behind everything. It often awakens after a person has already pursued everything the material world has to offer, after they have tasted wealth and found it empty, after they have achieved status and found it hollow, after they have built a family and been loved and still felt a quiet, persistent ache that nothing could reach. It can also awaken through suffering, through loss, through a crisis that strips away every illusion and leaves a person standing naked before the question, what is this all for? However it arrives, the point in the heart is the beginning of a different kind of life. It is the seed of a new sense, a sixth sense, if you will, that, once developed, allows a person to perceive layers of reality that were previously invisible. Not everyone experiences this awakening. Not yet. Out of 8 billion people on this planet, the vast majority are still fully occupied with the desires of the material world. Food, shelter, money, power, fame, pleasure. These desires are not wrong. They are stages. They are necessary stages. A child must crawl before it walks. Humanity must exhaust the material desires before it is ready to ask the deeper question. But some people, a growing number of people, have already reached that exhaustion. They have already tasted everything and found it insufficient. They are the ones sitting in beautiful homes feeling desolate. They are the ones succeeding in their careers and feeling purposeless. They are the ones lying awake at 3 in the morning asking, is this really all there is? If that is you, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not broken. You are not depressed. You are not ungrateful. You are waking up. The point in the heart is not a malfunction. It is the most advanced desire a human being can develop. It is the desire for the Creator, the desire for reality, the desire to understand the system you are living inside, to perceive the force that operates it, and to find your place within it. And once this desire awakens, nothing in the material world can put it back to sleep. Let me tell you about a man I will call Natan. Natan came to me 3 years ago. He was 44 years old. By every external measure, he was a success. He had built a technology consulting firm from nothing. He owned a home. He had a wife he loved and 2 children he adored. He drove a car that cost more than most people's apartments. He took holidays in places most people only see in magazines. And he was in agony. Not the kind of agony the world understands. Not financial agony. Not the agony of illness or loss. Something far more insidious. An agony that had no name, no shape, no obvious cause. An agony that made him feel insane because there was no logical reason for it. He described it to me like this: Rabbi, I have built everything I was told to build. I have achieved everything I was told to achieve, and I feel nothing, not sadness, not happiness, nothing. As if the entire world has lost its color, as if I am watching my own life through a window and I cannot reach it. He had tried everything: therapy, meditation, retreats, yoga, a sabbatical in Southeast Asia. He had read every self-help book on the bestseller lists. He had experimented with psychedelics under clinical supervision. He had even explored several religious traditions, sitting in churches, mosques, and synagogues, hoping something would spark. Nothing worked. Every solution addressed the symptoms. None of them touched the cause. When he sat across from me that first evening, I could see it in his eyes. The exhaustion. Not physical exhaustion. Something deeper. The exhaustion of a man who has searched everywhere and found nothing. The exhaustion of a person who is beginning to suspect that the answer does not exist. I said to him, "Natan, what if I told you that the emptiness you feel is not a problem to be solved? What if I told you it is a signal, that it is the most important thing that has ever happened to you?" He looked at me like I was mad. I continued, "You have spent your entire life trying to fill a vessel that was designed to receive, and you have been pouring every conceivable substance into it: money, status, love, experience, knowledge, and it has never stayed full, not because the vessel is broken, but because you have been filling it with the wrong substance." I opened the Baal HaSulam's introduction and read him the passage about the purpose of creation, that the Creator's intention is to give boundless pleasure to the created being. Natan's first reaction was anger. "Pleasure," he said. "What pleasure? I have had every pleasure available to a human being, and it tastes like ash." "Exactly," I said, "because you have only tasted the pleasures that enter the vessel directly. You have never learned to receive in the way the system was designed for you to receive." That conversation was the beginning. Natan did not become a Kabbalist overnight. There was no lightning bolt, no sudden enlightenment. He began to study, slowly, patiently, with the humility of a man who has tried everything else and is finally willing to admit that he does not know. He attended weekly classes. He read the sources. He struggled with concepts that made no sense to his analytical mind. He argued with me. He doubted. He questioned. He almost quit twice. But the point in the heart would not let him go. The question was too loud. The emptiness was too deep. He could not go back to the life he had before, because he now knew that the old life had no answer. It never did. After about 8 months of study, something shifted. It was subtle, not dramatic. He described it as a change in perception rather than a change in circumstance. He said, "Rabbi, the world has not changed, but I am starting to see something behind it, like there is a text written in invisible ink, and I am just beginning to see the outlines of the letters." He began to perceive connections he had never noticed, between events in his life, between his desires and their consequences, between the suffering he had experienced and the growth it had produced. He began to see the system, not completely, not perfectly, but enough to know it was there. Today, Natan is a different man. Not because his external life has changed dramatically. He still runs his company, still lives in the same house, still drives the same car. But the emptiness is gone, not because it was filled with a new substance, but because he finally understood what it was. It was not a void. It was a space designed to hold something that material pleasures could never provide: the perception of the Creator, the experience of the force behind reality, the sense of partnership with the system that sustains everything. He said to me recently, "Rabbi, for 44 years I was trying to find happiness. Now I understand that happiness was never the goal. Connection was the goal, and connection requires a completely different set of tools than the ones the world gave me." Now let me give you the practical foundation. If you are feeling the awakening of the point in the heart, if the question is stirring inside you, here is how to begin. I call these the 4 foundations, and they are the starting point for any serious student of this wisdom. Foundation 1. Understand that nothing needs to change. This is the most counterintuitive instruction you will ever receive. You do not need to change your life. You do not need to leave your job. You do not need to change your religion. You do not need to adopt a new diet, a new wardrobe, a new identity. You do not need to move to a monastery, sit cross-legged on a mountain, or eat one bowl of rice a day. Kabbalah is not practiced in isolation from life. It is practiced inside life. In the middle of your career, in the middle of your family, in the middle of your bills and your responsibilities and your ordinary, messy, imperfect human existence. You are not removing yourself from the world. You are adding a layer to the world, a layer of understanding, a layer of perception, a layer of wisdom. Just as a child does not stop living in order to go to school, it adds education to the life it is already living. You add this study to the life you are already living. Do not change anything. Add everything. Foundation 2. Study the authentic sources. This wisdom cannot be absorbed through osmosis. It cannot be picked up from YouTube summaries or Instagram quotes or second-hand interpretations. It requires the systematic study of the authentic Kabbalistic texts, written by Kabbalists who themselves attained the perception of reality we are speaking about. The primary sources are the writings of Baal HaSulam, Rabbi Yehuda Ashlag, and his student Rabash, Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag. These men did not write from theory. They wrote from direct perception. Their texts are not opinions. They are maps. Maps drawn by people who have already traversed the territory you are trying to reach. Study requires patience. The concepts will not make sense immediately. They are describing a reality you have not yet perceived, just as a textbook about swimming makes little sense to someone who has never been in water. But as you study, something begins to develop inside you. A new muscle, a new sensitivity, a new capacity to feel what the words are pointing toward. Do not rush. Do not skip ahead. Do not try to swallow the ocean in a single gulp. Read one page. Understand it. Sit with it. Let it work on you. Then read the next. Foundation. 3. Study in a group. This is not optional. This is fundamental. Kabbalah cannot be studied alone. Why? Because the perception we are trying to develop is not an individual perception. It is a collective one. The force we are trying to perceive, the Creator, the upper force, nature, whatever name you use, is a force of connection, of unity, of giving. It cannot be detected by an isolated individual any more than a single instrument can play a symphony. When you study in a group, with other people who share the same question, the same hunger, the same point in the heart, something happens between you that cannot happen within you alone. A field is created, a shared space of intention and aspiration, and it is within that field, not within any individual mind, that the perception begins to develop. This is not a social club. This is not a support group. This is a laboratory where the experiment is conducted on the connections between people, because those connections are the precise location where the Creator can be revealed. The Zohar states this explicitly. The Creator dwells between people, not within individuals. In the space between us, in the quality of our connection, in the degree to which we can rise above our natural self-interest and genuinely concern ourselves with the well-being of another. Find a group, join a class, sit with others who are asking the same question. This is not a suggestion. This is the methodology. Foundation 4. Be patient with the darkness. This is perhaps the most important foundation, and the hardest. When you begin to study Kabbalah, you will not immediately feel enlightened. You will not suddenly see God. You will not experience a rush of cosmic understanding. In fact, the opposite is more likely. You may feel more confused, more frustrated, more aware of your own limitations and ignorance. This is not failure. This is the process. A child does not feel smarter on the second day of school than on the first. Growth is imperceptible from the inside. A baby has no awareness of how much it has grown in 6 months. It simply grows. And so will you. There will be days when nothing makes sense. Days when you wonder why you are studying something so strange and difficult. Days when you want to quit. This is normal. This is the darkness before the dawn. And every Kabbalist who has ever attained the perception of reality went through this exact same darkness. The key is consistency, not intensity, not dramatic breakthroughs. Consistency. Show up, read a page, attend a class, sit with the question, day after day, week after week, just as you would send a child to school every morning without expecting them to graduate by lunchtime. The growth will happen. You will not see it at first, but one day you will look back and realize that you are not the same person who began this journey. Something has shifted, something has expanded, something that was closed has opened. And the question that brought you here, why am I here, will begin to transform from an ache into an adventure. Story 1. Marcus was a retired military officer, 30 years of service, decorated, respected, a man of discipline, order, and iron will. And after retirement, he fell apart. Not financially, his pension was secure. Not physically, he was in excellent health. Psychologically, the structure that had given his life meaning for 3 decades was gone. Every morning he woke up and faced a day with no mission, no objective, no chain of command, no purpose. He tried volunteering, he tried consulting, he tried traveling. Nothing filled the space. He described it as standing in a field with no horizon, no direction to march in, no enemy to face, no mission to accomplish, just emptiness in every direction. His wife suggested he attend one of our classes. He resisted for months. "I am not a spiritual person," he said. "I deal with reality, not fairy tales." But the emptiness persisted, and eventually the pain of doing nothing exceeded the discomfort of trying something new. Marcus sat in his first class with his arms crossed and his jaw set. He did not speak for the first 3 sessions. He simply listened, and something began to crack. "This is not what I expected," he told me after the 4th class. "This is not religion. This is systems analysis. You are describing how reality operates the same way I was trained to analyze an operational theater. Cause and effect, laws, structures, forces." Marcus studied for 2 years, rigorously, methodically, with the same discipline he had brought to his military career. The emptiness did not disappear overnight, but it transformed. It went from being a void into being a question, and the question, once properly framed, became the most meaningful mission of his life. He told me, "Rabbi, I spent 30 years defending a country. Now I am learning to understand a universe, and for the first time, I feel like I am actually doing something that matters." Story 2. Aleph was a young mother of 2. She was educated, thoughtful, deeply caring. She had grown up in a traditional religious household and had practiced her faith devotedly for her entire life. And yet the emptiness had found her. She came to me with tremendous guilt. "Rabbi, I feel like a terrible person," she said. "I have a beautiful family. I have my faith. I have a community. I should be grateful. But when I pray, I feel nothing. When I go through the rituals, they are empty. I go through the motions, and there is no one on the other end. I do not feel God. I have not felt God for years, and I am terrified to admit that to anyone." I told her, "Aleph, you are not losing your faith. You are outgrowing a container that is too small for you." She looked at me with wide eyes. No one had ever told her that. I explained that faith, as she had been taught it, was a psychological mechanism. a necessary and valuable mechanism that had served humanity for thousands of years, a way of providing comfort, community, structure, and meaning to billions of people. But for a person whose point in the heart has awakened, faith alone is not enough, because faith, by definition, is believing in something you have not perceived, and the point in the heart is the desire to perceive directly, to know, to experience, not to believe. Elif did not leave her tradition. She did not abandon her community. She added Kabbalah to her life, just as I have described. She studied the sources. She joined a group. She sat with the darkness. And slowly, the empty rituals began to fill with a new kind of content. Not the content of blind faith, but the content of growing perception. She began to feel something behind the words of her prayers, something real, something vast, something that had always been there but that she had never had the instruments to detect. She told me, after about a year, "Rabbi, I did not find a new God. I found the one who was always there. I just finally developed the eyes to see him." Story 3. David was a 26-year-old who had given up on life. Not in the dramatic sense. He was not in danger. He was not self-destructive. He was simply numb. He had graduated from university with honors, started a career in finance, and within 2 years had achieved a salary and a lifestyle that most people his age would envy. And he felt absolutely nothing. "I look at the people around me," he told me, "and they all seem to be playing a game that I cannot understand the rules of. They get excited about promotions. They get excited about cars. They get excited about holidays. And I sit there and I think, why? What is the point? We work to earn money to buy things to impress people we do not care about, and then we die. And everyone acts like this is normal." David had not been through tragedy. He had not suffered great loss. His point in the heart had simply awakened early. The emptiness had arrived before the usual prerequisites of age, experience, and exhaustion. He was a young man standing in the middle of a world that made no sense to him, surrounded by people who seemed perfectly content with a life he found meaningless. When he found our study group, the relief was immediate. Not because the answers came quickly, but because, for the first time in his life, he was surrounded by people who understood the question. People who did not look at him like he was broken when he said, "I do not understand why we are here." David is now in his 3rd year of study. He still works in finance. He still lives a normal outward life. But inside, something is developing that he could never have predicted. A sense of purpose, a sense of direction, a sense that the question that once tormented him is now the most valuable thing he possesses, because the question is the vessel, and the vessel is what the Creator fills. He said to me, "Rabbi, I used to think the emptiness was my curse. Now I understand it was my invitation." Before I close, let me address the objections that I know are forming in some minds, because I have heard them all, and they deserve honest answers. Is this a cult? No. A cult isolates you from the world. Kabbalah sends you deeper into the world. A cult demands obedience. Kabbalah demands independent thinking. A cult asks for your money and your freedom. Kabbalah asks for your effort and your honesty. There is no guru to worship. There is no leader to follow blindly. There are teachers and there are sources, and you are expected to verify everything through your own experience. If something does not make sense to you, you are not told to believe it anyway. You are told to study more until it either makes sense or reveals itself to be wrong. Do I need to be Jewish? No. The word Yehudi, commonly translated as Jewish, comes from the Hebrew root yichud, meaning unity. It describes a spiritual state, not an ethnicity or a religion. It refers to a person who has achieved unity with the Creator. Abraham, the first person described as a Yehudi, lived long before the religion of Judaism existed. He simply gathered around him people whose hearts asked the same question, regardless of their tribe, their language, or their background. Kabbalah belongs to every human being whose heart is asking, "Is this dangerous?" No, with one important caveat. This study is not recommended for people who are currently experiencing severe psychological disorders, active substance dependency, or who are in a state of extreme mental instability. The study involves working with two opposing forces, the desire to receive and the desire to give, and navigating the tension between them. This requires a stable, grounded psychological foundation. If that foundation is not present, the study can create confusion rather than clarity. For everyone else, for the ordinary, healthy, curious, questioning human being, it is not only safe, it is essential. Can I keep my religion? Absolutely. Kabbalah does not replace faith, it deepens it. Whatever your tradition, whatever your practice, it remains yours. Kabbalah adds a dimension of understanding that illuminates the tradition you already have. Many of our students are practicing Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, and people of no religion at all. The question of why we are here does not belong to any one tradition. It belongs to every human heart. So here is what I ask of you. For the next 30 days, commit to one simple practice. It is not a ritual. It is not a meditation. It is not a prayer. It is something far more powerful than any of those things. 1. Every day, for at least 15 minutes, read from an authentic Kabbalistic source. Begin with the introductions of Baal HaSulam. Read slowly. Do not try to understand everything. Simply expose yourself to the words. Let them work on you the way sunlight works on a seed beneath the soil. You will not see the growth, but it is happening. 2. Every day ask yourself the question, why am I here? Do not try to answer it. Simply hold it. Carry it with you through your day. Let it sit in the background of your consciousness like a quiet hum. This question is the vessel, and by holding it open, you are inviting the answer to arrive in its own time. 3. Find others who are asking the same question. A study group, a class, a community of seekers. You do not need to travel to a mountain. You do not need to leave your home. In the 21st century, these communities exist all over the world and online. Find one, join it, study together. Because the Creator reveals Himself in the space between people, not in the isolation of a single mind. 4. Be patient. Growth takes time. The deepest things take the longest to develop. You would not dig up a seed every day to see if it is growing. You would water it. You would give it light. And you would trust that the laws of nature are doing their work beneath the surface. Do the same with yourself. Study, question, connect with others, and trust that the laws of reality are operating on you even when you cannot feel it. Do this for 30 days, not as an experiment, as a beginning. And now, I want to leave you with a blessing. May the Creator, the force behind all reality, the intelligence within all systems, the love behind all laws, grant you the courage to face the question you have been carrying. May He open in you the point in the heart, that sacred seed of longing that cannot be satisfied by anything in this world because it was designed for something infinitely greater. May you find the strength to sit with the darkness, to endure the confusion, to resist the temptation of easy answers and quick fixes, to trust that the discomfort of not knowing is the fertile soil from which all true knowing grows. May you find others who share your question. May you build connections that become vessels for a light that no individual can hold alone. May you discover that the emptiness was never your enemy. It was your invitation, an invitation from the Creator Himself, calling you to come closer, to see deeper, to feel more, to understand the magnificent, terrifying, infinitely loving system in which you live and breathe and have your being. May you grow, slowly, steadily, with patience and with courage. May the question that brought you here become the greatest gift you have ever received. And may you one day look back at this moment, this exact moment, sitting here, listening to these words, and recognize it as the moment everything truly began. The purpose of your life is not to survive, it is not to accumulate, it is not to compete, it is not to win. The purpose of your life is to perceive the Creator, to perceive reality, to perceive the infinite love that is operating behind every moment of your existence, even the painful ones, especially the painful ones. This perception is available to you. It is waiting for you. It has always been waiting for you. All you have to do is begin. Shalom.